Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Rangers Review post-match reaction video. After a disappointing evening at Ibrox, Rangers exiting the Europa League at the last 16 stage, losing 1-0 this evening to Benfica. Rafa Silva with the only goal of the game, ironically came from a Rangers corner. Benfica were able to clear and broke away. The goal was initially chopped off for offside, but we went to a VAR check and he was just inside his own half. He ran through and slotted the ball past Jack Butland. Rangers huffed and puffed. They left everything on the pitch. But unfortunately, with so many players out through injury, it certainly showed at times. Rangers looked dead on their feet come the end of the game, just lacking that little bit of quality to get them over the line. Joshua is at Ibrox for us. Joshua, a disappointing evening. It's hard to criticise Rangers given they're up against top quality opposition, but what did you make of it all?
Yeah, I think that's fair. They're hard to criticise because I didn't think Benfica were great. I don't think people will come away from Ibrox tonight thinking, do you know what, they were at the top quality side, although obviously they have a lot of individual quality within that. So on one hand, you're thinking, it felt like there was more there for Rangers. We'll get into the reasons why, but it felt like they weren't just able to build momentum or kind of grab control of the game. I think Benfica were quite heavily in favour on the expected goals, and you think, is it a bit of a missed opportunity? But on the other hand, Derek, you look at it, Clement has been a routine rotator of his squad so far, of his starting 11, and he's only made one change in the last 3 games. I think this last week has shown the limitations of the squad at the moment, given injuries. He's played tonight without any natural wingers. I know kind of Wright is, but he's not someone who really hugs the touchline, as you saw tonight. And it is hard to be critical because Rangers did give everything, and it just was a step too far. It was a weird game at points, quite slow. Benfica sat off a lot, and they were just relying on that one moment. And the margins are so fine. Rangers conceding this over the course of this tie from a penalty that was obviously quite harshly given, from an own goal, and then from a goal that obviously derived from one of their own corners and was a transition and was almost offside. So really fine margins, frustrating. But I think coming away from this week, you look at what Rangers have to do over the course of the next 2 months. If they were to still be in all 3 competitions, Derek, are they going to win the Europa League? It's very unlikely. And the squad does not. It looks like it's starting to slow down a bit with the amount of games it has had to play as of late. So a frustrating night on one hand. As you say, it's hard to be too critical because you're playing against a really, really good team who are a lot better resourced than Rangers are. But there was a little bit of a sense within Ibrox of, was there more to be had in this game? With that said, I think the reaction of the fans at full time was telling. A good number stayed to applaud the team. They were singing at full time, very much the supporter very much with the team. And the Europa League dream, I guess, will live on or wait until the next campaign.
Yeah, I'm sure UEFA are breathing a sigh of relief that Rangers were knocked out this evening. I think they were a tad concerned in case the unthinkable happened and Rangers made it all the way to Dublin. A few comments coming in about the goal itself. Joshua, we'll dissect it more in detail tomorrow morning when me, you and Chris are on. But David with the point here, why were we so high for corners? The corners itself for me, I mean, they're not good enough. They need to work. I know Clement was asked about them recently and says he likes working on them. I'm sorry, Rangers need some sort of set-piece specialist in there because it's not good enough that the corners, not only offensively but defensively as well. Why do you think Rangers were so high and that left themselves so open at times tonight, Joshua?
The point, I need to watch it back, but I think if I'm right, all the Benfica players were in their box. So the idea being, instead of Rangers, I'd imagine, conceding territory and sitting back at their halfway line and allowing Benfica to break out. Again, I only saw the goal live there, and I've not watched it back yet. But I'd imagine the idea is you try and pen them in, and Rangers have had 3 players at the edge of the box. I don't know. Can you tell me where the mistake came? Did someone not get a clearance right?
It was a scramble in the box. It was a hat and hope into the box, and Benfica were able just to clear the ball away, and they managed to get away and. The boy was played in through on goal. Rafa Silva was a good finish from him incidentally.
I think that's the idea is that you try, instead of, for example, Rangers keeping someone on the halfway line when all the Benfica players are in their own box, if they were, I think the idea is obviously try and squeeze them in. You've got the players at the edge of the box who should have the advantage, but obviously have not managed it well, as you say, in that situation. It looked to me like it was offside on that VAR check, but then when we saw the pictures back, it was obviously clear that Rafa Silva was just inside his own half. So definitely, if you consider while Rangers looked dead on their feet tonight, And I'm sure some people watching will think, well, do you know what? Given the injury situation, you want Rangers to, if they're going to prioritise anything, you want them to prioritise a domestic game. But Clement and his squad won't be thinking like that. They'll be disappointed in not only the nature of the goal tonight they conceded, but the fact, as I say, Derek, that they've scored 2 pretty well worked goals against Benfica, not to be biased. And Benfica have obviously scored off those 3 chances, a penalty, an own goal, and from a breakaway. With that said, they did create the better opportunities tonight. While Rangers had more of the ball, there was that moment in the first half where Lundstrom gave it away. A couple more near misses as well for Rangers. I think they quite outweighed on the expected goals. But yeah, to your point, I'm sure Rangers will be really disappointed with the nature of that goal. It kind of fed into tonight. It just never got going. We're used to these nights kind of living up to expectations so much. Never really got going tonight, Derek. And as we can maybe get into, I think Benfica's approach had a lot to do with that, but also again just the reality of the players that Rangers had available tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, just Rangers just lacking in quality. Good evening to Boris, who gets in touch, a Benfica fan. He says, thank you for a good game. I was actually expecting a loss. There was a number of Benfica fans expecting the worst turning up to Ibrox tonight. But I think there was a comment that came in, incidentally, from Richard. He says, perfect plan from Benfica. Low block, knowing we have little imagination, quality up top. I thought it was a decent game plan from Rangers, just lacking in ideas. But I think we can look at so many players out missing, Joshua, that are certain starters in that first 11. Sima is one. You're thinking of the likes of Dujon Sterling. I think Rangers missed him massively tonight in terms of his endeavour in industry. Then you've got others. No, Todd Cantwell come on, but it looks like he's just off it a little bit. Kamar Roof came on as well. But Rangers just lacking that bit of quality up top, which Benfica have in abundance.
I don't think it was imagination. I take the point of quality because it is easy to forget. We made this point last week, didn't we? That the Rangers are probably have been missing their first choice front four, I'd argue, at least 3 of them. Danilo played ahead of Dessers when he was fit for Clement. Not seeing much of him in a Rangers shirt, but as I say, Clement picked him ahead of Dessers when both were available. Sima obviously plays, and Cortez both play if they're fit, and Todd Cantwell's been out as well. Although Tom Lawrence obviously is in strong contention, and it's not really caught up with Rangers all that much so far, and it did tonight. I think the issue was threefold. Benfica really sat off, didn't they? Really sat off. I don't know if that was necessarily giving Rangers respect. I think they wanted to limit the space that Rangers had to go in behind, because we know Ibrox Clement wants to turn defences and attack directly. They couldn't really do that tonight because Antonio Silva just won everything in the air. I don't think Dessers got much at all. He had that shot that was offside where he hit the goalkeeper, and he had the shot where he chopped back at the start of the second half. It was deflected just wide. So they didn't really have pace over the top. And when the game was slow, because the fullbacks couldn't really go high and wide, and you saw Lundstrom at points drop in to try and enable that, but because the fullbacks couldn't go high and wide because they were trying to marshal and stay on Neres and Di Maria, who were staying high, Rangers just lacked natural width because, as I said, Wright isn't effective. I don't think out wide he's more effective when he's in the pockets trying to drive in central spaces. And he had a couple of moments while missing the final ball. And then obviously we know that Fabio Silva's been really good on the left. But again, he's not a player you want out wide, isolated one-on-one. That's not his game, because he's not going to go up the line. So I just think the Rangers weren't able to get their pace to play because they couldn't go around or over the Benfica block. And obviously the risk of going through it is that you probably lose the ball in dangerous areas. That's why I think they weren't really able to build many chances, because even when they went down 1-0, there wasn't that many moments, and still you're bringing Matondo on the right, who, as we spoke about earlier today, Derek, in the morning briefing. That's not his natural side, and again, I think that shows when he's playing into limited space. So lack of quality, to a degree, because you're missing 3 or 4 of your key starters in the attack. But I also think because Antonio Silva was so effective at cutting out that direct ball, it asked more questions of Rangers in possession, and again, they just didn't quite have the margins to make that count tonight.
Listen, it was a frustrating evening at Ibrox. Rangers just coming up short. Let's get to some of the comments coming in. John gets in touch. He says, great effort from us tonight, but he says Dessers, Diamandi, Wright, and even Lawrence smells off it. So he's pretty scathing in his assessment there. I thought Fabio Silva never had his best game in the Rangers jersey. That didn't quite happen for him tonight over on that left-hand side. Day in the life, though, says Tom Lawrence had a good game. I thought we all had a good game. Just the final third, people, absolutely. Rangers just lacking that little bit of quality in that area of the pitch. And unfortunately, that was to cost us in the long run, as Benfica will be in the hat for that quarter-final draw tomorrow around lunchtime. But focus now turns to Dens Park. Joshua, there isn't that distraction, if you like, of Europe as much as we would have enjoyed a trip somewhere. But Dens Park now becomes huge. Get that out the way, and then into the international break and a chance for a number of players to recover, recuperate, and come back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's we're not coming on here tonight saying it's a huge blow to Rangers' season. On budget alone, they shouldn't really be at this stage of the competition. And it might sound like we're making excuses after the event, but it's become such a norm for them overperforming, and that's obviously to their credit. And these nights at Ibrox, wins against top quality opposition have just kind of become routine. But obviously, they're difficult to come by. Europe would have been a bonus, and again, if you didn't have this injury crisis, it's a different conversation. I think Benfica only have one player out travelling tonight. It could be wrong, but certainly last week it was only Juan Bernat, their left back. It just shows you the contrast to Rangers, who probably have five or six kind of first team starters out, and the game's obviously continuing to come thick and fast. The league is the ultimate priority. It would have been fantastic to keep going in Europe, because not only have they run a couple of years ago, but how successful Rangers have been in this competition as of late. And again, there will be that sense, of course, of what could have been a little bit of a sense of deflation, because it wasn't as if you walk away from this game thinking Benfica were brilliant. I think it was more that Benfica had obviously a bit more quality, as we knew, seemed to have a little bit more in their legs. They're able to rotate, obviously, a little bit because of they don't have those injuries. And Rangers, just whether they were off it slightly, whether they didn't have the players, weren't able to really make the most of the ball, which will be the frustrating thing. So interested to see what Philippe Clement has to say in his press conference. We'll obviously break the game down in a bit more detail tomorrow morning, Derek. But yeah, I think in summary, a frustrating game and a fair share of what could have been, because the game felt like there was more there in the game, but also it just maybe a bit of a step too far for Rangers. It hasn't materialised in terms of energy levels, in terms of the options they had, and how Clement has got the absolute utmost out of the squad so far, just wasn't able to get them over the line tonight.
Yeah, one step too far it was. We'll just wrap up with these two comments. Lyle says, struggled with no real focal point up front. Desser's okay domestically, but not at this level. The ball just bounces off him. And Jordan sums it up. Says, if someone told me in November that we'd get to the last 16 in Europe, win a cup and be top of the league, I would take it. Absolutely. A sore one tonight, I'm sure, in the cold light heart today. Focus will soon turn to the weekend. Hopefully Rangers can get a victory there and march on in the league as well. So still a domestic treble to play for. So yes, it's a frustrating one, but not the end of the world. Chris is at the press conference for us. He'll be speaking to Philippe Clement and Roger Schmidt as well. So keep your eyes peeled for those press conferences, folks. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show. As ever, as we touched on earlier on, we'll be back tomorrow morning, myself, Joshua and Chris, to analyse the game in more detail. We hope you can join us for that. But until then, good night. Bye for now.